Welcome to the woods. It's another lovely day. Sun shining. Dogs are behaving, mostly. And I've just been given a present. My stepdaughter did us a whole load of cupcakes with little chocolate trees and 1K on it for reaching 1,000 subs. So thank you, George and Gareth. I'll enjoy that with my coffee. Thank you to everyone who subbed, and thank you to all the other content creators that gave me a bit of a plug. It's much appreciated. And I'm going to give it a bit of a rest today. It's Sunday, so day of rest. No social commentary, no politics, no off-grid stuff, per se. But I thought I'd regale you with yet another Sunday story. Most of you know that I live in the woods in a cabin that I built. And it's a big old place. And I built all of it. I had help with like putting the roof on and bits and pieces. But pretty much I've had a hand in the whole thing. And I managed to do all that without any major injury. Which is surprising, to say the least, because I've got no building skills. But I didn't chop my fingers off, cut my legs open, or drop anything on my head. So it was all good. Now, about 4 years ago, for the wife's birthday, I bought her a little summer house. Little thing, 8 foot by 6 foot. Little glazed doors on the front, little windows, pitched roof. And I built it up the front by the chickens. And I figured she could sit there and have a cup of tea and watch her birds. But as it was, it turned out that when we were up there with the chickens, we were usually doing stuff. We were usually emptying the pens or collecting eggs or feeding them. Or we were down here in the cabin. So the little summer house kind of got neglected. Anyway, she mentioned to me that she'd like to be using it more, and could I move it from where it was up the front to round the back in the garden behind the cabin. And I said yes, but hesitantly. And the reason for my hesitance was that I remembered how it went together. Now, for the blokes watching this, some of you will understand what I mean. If you've ever put together one of these pre-bought summer houses or sheds, they never go together properly. There's either a piece missing or nothing fits as it should. So when I came to put it together the first time, and you butt the two walls up, and it says put 2 screws in, and they supply you with 2 little 1/2-inch screws, and you put it in and it doesn't quite hold, and it pings open, and I went and got some 1-inch screws, and instead of putting 2 in, I put 22 in, so it wouldn't come apart. And I did that on every panel. And I'd rounded the heads off of some of them screws. And sometimes I use nails. So getting the thing apart was going to be a bit of a ball ache. But I'd said I'd do it. So one day I got up early, cracked on with a pair of pliers, a hacksaw, a hammer, and managed to get all 22 screws out of every single panel that fitted together. And I moved the walls from the summer house to the top of the path at the front of the cabin, and the base and the floor, and the roof, which was a pitched roof, was actually in 4 parts. So you had 2 parts that went together, and then another 2 parts that went together, and they were joined inside with purlins, and struts, and again, each one of those I'd nailed and screwed in order that it wouldn't come apart. And I didn't want to take it apart either. It was a nightmare putting it together. So I figured if I could get the roof off in one piece, then I could build the rest of the summer house and literally put the roof on top of it, screw it back down. Sounds like a plan, doesn't it? So anyway, I moved all the rest of the summer house to the back, put the base down, level-ish, got the walls in, fitted them all together with not quite as many screws as I did the last time. And then it came time for the roof. Now when I lifted it off the summer house, the wife had helped me, and we'd got a person each side and lifted it off and carried it to the front of the path. But she wasn't around. And I was having a pretty good day. I'd managed to get it apart and I'd moved it all, and it was all built, apart from the roof. And being a bloke, I figured I could do it myself. So I thought what I could do was stand the roof up and get it onto my back, and then lift it and carry it down the path, round the front of the house, through the gate, and then maybe I could actually slide it onto the top of the summer house. So I gave it a go, and I managed to get the roof onto my back, and then stood, and it was heavy, and started down the path, and things were going well until halfway down, and I tripped. Now as I fell forward, my instant reaction was to put my hands out in front of me so that I didn't break the fall with my face. So I put my hands down, but in doing so I had to let go of the roof, which hit me on the back of the head, and weighing what it did, probably 200 weight, flattened me, pinning both my arms at the wrist to the floor. So I'm lying face down on the path with a summer house roof on my back, with the front strut pinning my arms to the floor, the middle strut laying across the small of my back, and the back of the strut across my calves, making it nigh on impossible for me to move. So as I lay there, with my head poking out the front of this roof, looking, to all intents and purposes, like some sort of geriatric ninja turtle that had been dropped from space, I wondered what I was going to do. And I struggled, and eventually I managed, by leaving most of the skin on my wrists on the roof, to pull my hands out, and lifted the roof enough so I could get underneath it and complete the job. So I carried it round the front, through the gate and into the back garden, where I left it, just leaning up against the summer house. Did I try to lift it onto the summer house? No. After that unfortunate half hour lying face down with a roof on me, I figured I'd wait and get the wife to help. And she did. She got home and we lifted it on together, and it's okay. It went on. She's got a summer house in the back garden. She uses it regularly, and I use it to store a load of my stuff in as well, which is handy. And is there a moral to that story? Well, probably. You can't always do things on your own. You get that? That's why we live with other people. That's why we're in relationships, so that we can share the burden. And being a bloke, I always like to try and get stuff done myself. But sometimes it's good to do things together. Takes half the time, and you don't end up face down in the dirt. So, have a good day. Get done whatever you can. And if it looks like it's going to be a bit too much work, get someone to give you a hand. Anyway, you lot, speak to you soon.